Hey there everybody, this is Fletch. Welcome back. We've got an interesting video for you tonight. Kind of a subject matter I've never really talked about or breached before. But hopefully you'll learn something by listening and joining in. And I know I learned stuff researching this and whatnot. So I just wanted to get on here and hopefully dispel some of the FUD that's going around in the world around us due to the SBF or Sam Bankman-Fried debacle with the FTX exchange and Alameda Research Group and Genesis and all of the other stuff that has gotten interwoven into all of that. I'm going to move kind of fast, and I know that in advance this video is going to be pretty long, so what I'm going to do is I will annotate under the video a timestamp if you want to skip ahead or skip sections that, let's say, it's something you already know about. So I would say that if you're not well acclimated into the world of cryptocurrencies, I would encourage you to watch the whole video. You'll most likely learn quite a bit from it. And even if you're not, you still might learn something from it as well. So without further ado, let's just jump right in. One of the biggest things that I'm seeing right now that actually I find kind of shocking is Jim Cramer on Smart Money. Haha, funny. But anyways, he recently, in the last couple of weeks, has taken a pot shot at XRP or Ripple a couple of times now. And he's very, in my opinion, careful about what he says and how he says it, but yet he very clearly intimates his negative opinion of it. And, to each their own. The man's certainly welcome to his opinion, but when you're knowing, in my opinion, when you're knowing what would seem to be knowingly lying to the public, man, that's got to be, borderline malfeasance. I know when I studied for my Series 6 and 65, and for those of you that don't know, the Series 6 is so you can sell securities like mutual funds and stuff like that. And the 65, that may not be the exact right number, but if not, I'll annotate it. But anyways, it's a secondary license that you need for selling more advanced things other than individual stocks and bonds, which you typically need a Series 7 for. The 65, you're able to actually charge by the hour just to give people information. In that light, big red disclaimer, nothing I'm saying here today should be taken as legal or financial advice. These are merely my opinions of someone that used to be in the financial services industry, and the things that I've learned over the years, just real life's experience, coupled with the research that I've done. So to get back on track, talking about Jim Cramer, they just keep claiming that XRP is a con and a scam and this and that, one and the other. It's always something negative, never anything positive. One of the first knocks that people like to make against XRP is that XRP, which was created by a still around, still great company called Ripple. And actually, they started working on it going back as early as 2004 as a payment processor. And this is well before Bitcoin, the white paper was ever introduced or anything like that. So, this idea that Ripple and or XRP is somehow some kind of fly-by-night, overnight success, much like FTX was, hint, hint. You can kind of make of that what you will. Now, the second thing, in my opinion, that parlays really closely along with this is that Jim Cramer, as well as many other current big muckety mucks, so to speak, in the cryptocurrency world tend to have this idea that the only good cryptocurrencies or the only good blockchains are those that evolve around Bitcoin and or Ether. And let me tell you folks, there's nothing further from the truth on that. And to illustrate my point, you can see the gray hair on my head. I've been around for a while. Yes, I did use rotary phones, you know, where you put your finger in the number and turned it around and then you had to wait for it to spin all the way back around. Yeah, that was me. But anyways, Bitcoin maxis, in my opinion, are like the AOL of the new internet back in the 90s and 2000s. For a time, AOL, which is an acronym for America Online, was a dial-up service that you had to do. And I remember logging into AOL, I think with a 9.6 baud modem, you know, the ones that go and yeah, I know I'm dating myself, but so yeah, it goes back a while. And you know, people thought that AOL was just the cat's meow of the online world, and that nothing would ever happen to AOL, or and that would never change. Well, I think AOL is still around in some capacity, but certainly not the former grandeur, shall we say, that they once had. And guys, Bitcoin's the same way. Bitcoin's not going anywhere. I have no ill will towards Bitcoin. However, it has the what do they call that? First runner's advantage, right? They were the first name that got out there. They got people involved, and so you've got a lot of people who are heavily invested into Bitcoin. Well, what happens if people like you and people like me, we invest our money in other projects, solid projects like Stellar or Ripple or Algorand, ADA, VET, which is VeChain. And by the way, ADA is Cardano. There's lots of other really solid projects out there that you could invest in, or speculate in is probably a better way to put that, because that's what you're doing, you're speculating. For every dollar that doesn't go into Bitcoin, that's a dollar that a lot of these people feel like you're stealing from them. Because if you had any common sense, you would invest all of your money in Bitcoin, and always hoping and waiting for the bigger fool to come along behind you and to keep driving up the price of Bitcoin. And so, as the old saying goes, take it for what it's worth. But in my opinion, this is absolutely what a lot of these talking head pundits are doing, whether it's on web-based stuff or broadcast television-based stuff. And in my opinion, they're borderline malfeasance, because they're knowingly saying things and knowingly leading you to believe things that simply aren't true. And they know that they're not true, but they're not going to tell you that they're not true. And one of those first things is that Ripple and or XRP, and understand that Ripple is a payments company that created the digital currency XRP. XRP is not Ripple. Ripple is not XRP. Ripple is a privately owned company. And if you're an accredited investor, you can buy private equity shares in Ripple. So Ripple and XRP have absolutely nothing to do with each other. Having said that, Ripple only controls 9%, or about 9% of the 150 validators that are on the XRP network. There's two standards basically that blockchain uses. One's called proof of work and one's called proof of stake. ETH, or Ethereum, recently made the transition to proof of stake because it's more efficient and it works better than proof of work, in my opinion. And many other people agree with me, and obviously Vitalik Buterin agreed with that too, because that was a very long, very arduous undertaking for them, to accomplish. So when you're hearing these folks talk about these things, stop and think about it for a minute. Where is this person coming from? What do they have to gain or lose by the information that they're giving to me and how they're presenting it? For those that don't know, you can still buy XRP. It's not illegal to own XRP. It's not illegal to buy XRP. Ripple, the company, is in a lawsuit currently with the Securities Exchange Commission. And in my opinion, and it's just that, my opinion, but the Gary Gensler, the head of that three-letter agency, which we shall from now on refer to as that, man, I tell you, that dude just looks like an untrustworthy weasel. And for those of you that don't understand, going back to the United States of America's early roots, being called the weasel was one of the worst things that you could possibly be called, because back during that time, people lived a much more agrarian lifestyle, meaning they lived off the land, they depended on the land. And weasels are one of the few animals in nature that kills purely for sport. So if a weasel gets in your hen house, and let's say you've got 20 laying hens, the weasel will kill all 20 of your chickens in the same night, same morning, same afternoon. In my experiences, it's usually at night. But anyways, they will kill all of your chickens. And when you go from having 20 chickens, which is food from eggs and food from, every once in a while you're going to kill a chicken and eat it, to having nothing. And so, people hated weasels for that very reason. And in my opinion, the gentleman that runs that three-letter agency is a weasel. In my opinion, especially in the TV interviews that he's giving, he's intentionally being disingenuous. He knows that the things that he's saying are not correct, they are not true, but no one's going to currently take him to task with the media and the government being the way that it is right now. One of the next things I wanted to briefly broach is the idea that oh my gosh, there's billions of XRP, and oh my gosh, what are we going to do? The value of it's going to go to nothing, yada, yada, yada. Well, guys, you got to understand that the whole purpose of Ripple, which started all the way back in 2004, coming forward till today, Ripple, the company, does 85% of its business outside of the US. And it was recently valued at like $5 billion. So that valuation has very little to nothing to do with the United States of America. The United States of America is the only industrialized first world nation that claims anyways that XRP is a security instead of a virtual currency. And by the way, back in 2015, CINFIN and XRP came to a settlement. They paid a small fine, and it was clear sailing for them at that point. And CINFIN declared XRP to be a virtual currency. So you can imagine my surprise, as well as many other people's surprise, when they were hit with this lawsuit from the SEC to begin with, because they'd already been working with the government and had already been declared a virtual currency and not a security. One of the other things about Ripple, when they designed the XRP cryptocurrency as well as the blockchain that it operates on, every time you send XRP, a little bit of XRP is deleted and it's no longer used. And that's the cost of doing business. That also helps secure the network, because it would become overwhelmingly expensive to pay for all of those little transactions if you're just trying to spam a server or something along those lines. And as long as we're talking about that, the cost of doing that it typically happens in about 3 to 5 seconds, and the cost is, on average, is 0.0002 or 3, you know, somewhere around in there, a fraction of a cent anyways, though. That's the important thing, and it happens in 3 to 5 minutes. Try that on the Ethereum network and see how much it costs and how long it takes. Try that on Bitcoin, see how much it costs and how long it takes. One of the 3 of those that I just mentioned was absolutely designed from the ground up to be a cryptocurrency. Not a crypto security, not a crypto commodity, a cryptocurrency. Since we've already brought up Jim Cramer, guys, I can tell you I've been around the financial world for a while, and I'm going to give you the disclaimer again. This is not financial advice. This is not legal advice. These are my personal opinions based on my experiences and what I believe to be true and what I'm doing with mine. You should do you. You should do your homework. You should do your due diligence, and don't do anything based on anything that I say in this video. Do your own research. Jim Cramer is infamous for telling people that Bear Stearns wasn't going under. Same with Enron. He was telling people, you know, don't pull your money out of Enron. It's solid. It's good. And if you don't believe me, just search it. Just search Jim Cramer, Enron. Jim Cramer, you know, whatever. And you will find, you know, that those snippets are still out there. They're around. So the point in sharing that part with you is that, as far as I'm concerned, when Jim Cramer gives you specific advice towards any one investment, do the exact opposite. Now, an interesting fact, since we're talking about lots of interesting facts in this video, is that just the opposite with Paul and Nancy Pelosi. They are phenomenal traders. It's almost as if they've got, you know, some kind of inside information or something, and they know when things are about ready to go up. I don't know how that could happen. Do you? All right. Well, anyways, Ripple is a private company, but despite the fact that they're a private company, they publicly produce their quarterlies and show the public exactly what they're doing, their reserves, everything, how much they hold in escrow. None of it is a secret. Unlike many of the other projects that are out there, have lots of very closely guarded secrets. In my opinion, this is also why people love to hate on Ripple and XRP, is because they're doing everything in their power to be above board and just putting all the information out there, letting people see it. And, you know, as the old saying goes, let the chips fall where they may the best cryptocurrency win. Ripple is the only top 10 startup that is in the crypto industry. Like we talked about before, they recently had a valuation of about $5 billion, and that is only with announcements of deals with banks, central banks, the Bank of International Settlements, the World Economic Forum, all of these other places. They are in partnership with them, in these meetings with them. They will be part, in my opinion, they will be part of the new financial system when that happens. Some things that I would just like to share with you guys real quick before you get involved in any cryptocurrency thing. Please make sure that you're making sure that whatever it is, that it has an actual use case. What is this product actually going to be used for? Ripple and XRP, absolutely. They have, in my opinion, hands down the best use case there is available right now. They're already doing business, 85% outside of the US, and they already have the lion's share of the FX market, according to the CEO, Brad Garlinghouse. And if you Google that, I'm sure that you can pull that up. Secondly, make sure that they have financial backing. How much cash does this project have in reserves? Because things happen, right? Supposedly, the reason why FTX went down was because a lack of liquidity, not because they were stealing investors' funds and allowing the parents of Sam Bankman-Fried and his ex-girlfriend, who was the CEO of Alameda Research, to take all that money out and buy properties in the Bahamas, and yeah, supposedly, right? Who knows? The next is how many developers are actively working on the project. You can go to GitHub and you can see how many developers are working on the projects and what they're doing. If you want more information about that, just Google how to use GitHub, and there's lots of videos that'll explain to you how to use that and how it works. Having said that, the XRP ledger has been running for about 10 years now, problem-free. XRP and a handful of other cryptocurrencies are already ISO 200022 compliant. Guys, right now, honestly, there really isn't a whole lot to that. You know, do some research on it if you want to, but, you know, Ripple and XRP have already been AML, which is an acronym for anti-money laundering, and KYC, which is an acronym that stands for Know Your Customer. So they have been AML and KYC for years now, and they're already as fully compliant as they could possibly be. Another interesting fact is that Brad Garlinghouse, the CEO of Ripple, has already publicly stated on numerous occasions that they are planning to, they'd very much like to, once the SEC lawsuit is settled or closed, that they plan to go public. I certainly plan to, if at all possible, to buy some of their stock once they go public, but that's just me. That's what I'm doing. That may not be what's best for you and what you should do. That's just what I'm doing. Recently, the amount of escrow that Ripple holds in reserve has dropped below 50%. And over the last several weeks, there's been like this really crazy high rate of new accounts opened. I think it's like almost 120,000 new accounts on the ledger. Because you remember, a blockchain ledger is anonymous, but it's public. Ripple also recently bought 40% of Tranglo, which is a Southeast Asia money payment service, much like we have PayPal here. Tranglo is a similar type service that they have in Southeast Asia. This ties back into the same thing that, yes, Ripple and XRP absolutely have a rock solid use case. It is a real working blockchain with a real working usable cryptocurrency that is being used on that blockchain. The next thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about is I know that a lot of people in, I guess I would call it, faith-based circles, a lot of people in those circles are very afraid of cryptocurrency, and especially central bank digital currency. And I'll explain it to you as best I can, you know, based on how I understand it, which is just simply that there's a reason why right now everything in the world around us, the media, the government, is pushing you towards putting everything in the cloud, right? Like you can't buy Microsoft Office anymore. You lease it every month and you have to have an active internet connection to use it. And if you'll notice, many things are going that way and are going in that direction. The reason why is because just like they do in China, right? You start talking bad about the government, you start doing things that they don't like, you start saying things that they don't like, all they got to do is push a button and you're shut off. You no longer can buy or sell anything. You no longer can, you know, get on the internet at all. All of those things, because it's all under one umbrella and centralized control. So a lot of people are fearful of that. The best that I can tell you, the best that I would try to explain it to you folks out there, or anyone else for that matter, is just simply that digital cryptocurrencies, you know, they're kind of the same, they're kind of not, but, or central bank digital currencies, to muddy the waters even more, they're tools. They can be used for good or bad. The good part about cryptocurrencies is for countries who are struggling with people embezzling money from the government, and you can never catch them, you can do everything about it. The good part is that let's say I'm managing a fund for the government. There's a record of every cryptocurrency that was received into this division of the government that I'm managing. And if 6 months from now my brother-in-law ends up having that cryptocurrency when it's supposed to be in my account, Lucy, we got some explaining to do. All right, moving on. A couple other interesting things. We've talked about this before. Bitcoin maxis tend to be all about, oh, Bitcoin this, Bitcoin that. Guys, countries have tried to run themselves. I mean, not, large first world industrialized countries, but small countries have tried to run themselves on, or certain aspects of their government, on Bitcoin and Ethereum, and it did not work. They went down in flames miserably, because it wasn't designed for that purpose. In my opinion, well, first of all, I wish Bitcoin no ill will in any way. I know I've already said that, but I'd like to reiterate that. I own very little Bitcoin. And the reason why is because if I invest into Bitcoin, I'm not going to have, for me personally, I'm not going to have as high a multiplier on as I would if I were to buy some of these other high quality altcoins like we've been talking about, like XLM, which is called Stellar, ADA or Cardano, VET or VeChain, DOGE, and Reef are just a few, and a lot of the other altcoins that are on the Ethereum network also. And for whatever it's worth, guys, if I could only choose between Bitcoin and Ethereum, I would choose Ethereum, because Ethereum has a lower price, so therefore you're going to get a bigger multiplier as the price goes up versus what it would be with Bitcoin, because the price of each individual Bitcoin is so high. But also, just so I'm not muddying the waters, for those of you that are newer out there, you don't have to buy a whole Bitcoin to buy Bitcoin. You can buy $100 worth of Bitcoin, and you can, and that's your property. You don't have to, have $13,000 and buy a whole Bitcoin, for those of you that didn't know that, weren't aware of that. But to finish the thought, the XRP ledger can handle 1,500 transactions a second. Bitcoin, 3 to 5. And so as you can see, there's a huge difference between those. Bitcoin was never designed to be, a worldwide digital currency like Ripple created XRP to be. We already talked about the minimum the average cost per transaction is 0.0002 on average. And interestingly enough, here's something that I thought was really interesting, because this is back when I had first just started getting back into getting into the cryptocurrency scene and learning about it, is that in 2019, the SEC announced that they were going to be running a XRPL validator. That's XRP ledger, XRPL. How in the world can they be claiming that XRP is an unregistered security, and yet they're running a validator helping them steal money from people, supposedly? So for whatever that's worth. And then one of the last things that I wanted you folks out there to know is just simply that if you look at the board of directors for, unlike FTX, who didn't even apparently have a board of directors, Ripple actually has a who's who. I hate to use the term important, because we're all important, but people who you would recognize if you have a financial background, if you have a fintech or financial technology background, if you have a banking background, things like that. Up into and including Rosie Rios, who was the treasurer of the United States of America, is on the board of directors for Ripple. These are just some of the facts that I wanted to share with you guys out there. As kind of a personal note, I wanted to thank those of you who have been with me. We've been making videos off and on for between 10 and 11 years now. And from the bottom of my heart and my family's heart, we thank you. We appreciate your support. We appreciate you watching the ads. all of those things. It definitely makes a difference on a monthly basis for our family. So again, from me and my family, thank you. Thank you very much. We greatly appreciate you. Okay guys, so in closing real quick, again, the purpose of this video was to share facts with those of you out there who might be worried or afraid. You know, the FUD, FUD is an acronym that stands for fear, uncertainty, and doubt. It's kind of an industry lingo, FUD. And so, you're aware of these things and you know how to combat that, especially if you have friends or family that are telling you, just parroting these things that they're hearing people, on the internet or on network TV are talking about, and, trying to scare you out of the marketplace. And also, for whatever it's worth, my personal opinion, and it's just that, as we're recording this, the date I'm recording this, it probably won't be the date I upload it, but this was recorded on December the 8th. I would say that within the next 2 months, there's going to be a settlement between Ripple and the three-letter agency. And, Ripple may have to, pay some money, whatever, to help the weasels save face. And it could even be a sizable amount of money when you look at the big picture of where Ripple is at and what's getting ready to happen. Even if it was millions of dollars, that's going to be a penance compared to what they stand to make. And also, for those of you that are already well acclimated into the world of cryptocurrency, I wanted to just address this with you guys real quick, which is just simply, guys, I know that I kind of glossed over a lot of this stuff. What I shared with you is probably 1,000th of the stuff that I know. And I'm not sharing it with you to sound egotistical or, anything like that. Just simply, those of you who are already knowledgeable, you may be sitting there thinking, well, why didn't he say this? Why didn't he say that? Well, he should have added this. He should have added that. And it's just simply, guys, because this is already a really long video. I don't even know how long it is, but I know that it's long. And people aren't going to watch it, number one. And number two, those of you who have actually watched it to this point, thank you. I appreciate you. But also just to say that you got to cut it off at some point, and you can't just keep going and going. So with that, again, thank you, and until next time, we'll see you then. Oh shit. Transmitter in. Really? The compressor kicks on in the middle of my video. You would think that compressor would know by now that this garage is also my studio.